I never imagined that something in my quiet suburban neighborhood could turn into a situation that might literally cost someone their life. But that's exactly what happened. It started 3 months ago when I moved into Sunshine Meadows, one of those picture-perfect communities with pristine lawns, matching mailboxes, and HOA so strict it felt more like a governing body than a neighborhood association. My name is Michael. I'm a pharmacist, and I had recently relocated for work. I knew the HOA existed when I bought the house, but nothing prepared me for meeting its president, Deborah Wilkins, though everyone quietly referred to her as Karen. Karen had been HOA president for 7 straight years, not because people respected her, but because no one wanted to challenge her and deal with the consequences. She was in her mid-50s, sporting the classic blonde bob, designer sunglasses permanently perched on her head, and an expression that screamed authority without empathy. I first met her at the mandatory neighborhood welcome meeting. Instead of welcoming me, she spent nearly 45 minutes listing every possible rule violation I could commit. "You see, Michael," she said with a tight smile that never reached her eyes, "we have standards here at Sunshine Meadows. Garbage bins must be brought in by 8 p.m. on collection day. Not 8:01, not 8:05, exactly 8 o'clock. I personally conduct neighborhood inspections." I nodded politely while wondering what kind of person dedicates their evenings to hunting down trash cans. It didn't take long to find out. Karen's entire personality revolved around enforcing HOA rules, many of which seemed designed solely to make residents miserable. My first violation notice arrived just 2 weeks after I moved in. My garden hose had been improperly coiled. The second notice came while I was away on a business trip. Apparently my grass was half an inch too tall. The third, a bird feeder that wasn't on the approved accessory list. Every notice came with a fine and a passive-aggressive note written in Karen's looping handwriting. But I wasn't her only target. My next-door neighbor, Mr. Peterson, was a 78-year-old retired teacher who had lived in Sunshine Meadows for over 15 years. He was kind, soft-spoken, and always offered to collect my mail when I traveled. He also made the best homemade lemonade I'd ever tasted. More importantly, he was diabetic and depended on daily insulin injections to survive. One evening in early June, I was returning home from a late shift when I noticed Mr. Peterson sitting on his front porch, clearly distressed. As a healthcare professional, I immediately recognized the signs of someone in medical trouble. "Mr. Peterson, are you okay?" I asked, rushing over. He looked up at me, sweat beading on his forehead. "Not really, Michael. My insulin delivery was supposed to arrive today, but it's gone. My glucose levels are already high. I only have enough medication for tonight. If I don't find that package, tomorrow could be dangerous." Alarm bells went off in my head. Missing insulin doses can be life-threatening. We searched around his porch and checked with nearby neighbors, but the package was nowhere to be found. The tracking information showed it had been delivered at 2 p.m., right to his doorstep. But by 3 o'clock, it had vanished. Just as we were about to call the delivery company, a familiar voice cut through the air. "Looking for something?" Karen called from across the street, walking toward us with a smug smile, twirling her car keys. Perhaps a package that violates HOA delivery regulations? I stared at her. "Karen, do you know where Mr. Peterson's package is?" "Of course I do," she replied proudly. "It's in the HOA office. All improperly delivered packages are confiscated under our new policy." My blood ran cold. What policy? She pulled out her phone and showed us an email sent just 2 days earlier. According to new rules, packages could no longer be left at front doors. They had to be delivered to back doors or picked up from the HOA office during business hours. Front door deliveries were deemed unsightly. "Karen," I said carefully, "that package contains Mr. Peterson's insulin. He needs it to manage his diabetes." She barely glanced at him. Rules are rules. He can pick it up tomorrow between 10 a.m. and 2 p.m. when the office opens. "I need it tonight," Mr. Peterson said anxiously. "I won't have enough for the morning." Karen's expression didn't change. "Then you should have planned better. This will teach you to read community emails more carefully." I was stunned. This wasn't about trash cans or lawn height. This was life-saving medication. "You can't withhold prescription medication," I said firmly. "I'm not withholding anything," she replied, adjusting her sunglasses. "I'm enforcing community standards." End of discussion. As she walked away, I called after her. "This could be illegal." She turned back sharply. "Are you threatening me?" Insubordination to the HOA board results in additional fines. Mind your own business. After she left, I checked Mr. Peterson's remaining insulin. He wouldn't make it until morning. I made a decision on the spot. "I'll call my pharmacy." I told him, "We'll arrange an emergency prescription for tonight." He thanked me repeatedly, worried about the cost, but I told him not to think about that. All that mattered was keeping him safe. That night, as I picked up the emergency insulin, one thing became painfully clear. This wasn't about rules or appearances. It was about power, and Karen enjoyed wielding it, even when someone's life was on the line. The next morning, I walked with Mr. Peterson to the HOA office right at 10 a.m. Karen sat behind the desk like a queen on her throne, barely acknowledging us. "We're here for Mr. Peterson's package," I said firmly. I never imagined that moving into a quiet suburban neighborhood could turn into a situation where someone's life was genuinely put at risk. But that's exactly what happened. 3 months ago, I moved into a community called Sunshine Meadows, the kind of place with perfectly trimmed lawns, matching mailboxes, and an HOA so strict it bordered on obsessive. My name is Michael, and I'm a pharmacist who relocated for work. I knew the HOA existed when I bought the house, but nothing prepared me for its president, Deborah Wilkins, though everyone whispered the same nickname behind her back. Karen. Karen had been HOA president for 7 straight years, not because people liked her, but because no one wanted to challenge her and deal with the fallout. She was in her mid-50s with a stiff blonde bob, designer sunglasses permanently perched on her head, and an attitude that screamed authority. I met her for the first time at the mandatory welcome meeting. Instead of welcoming me, she spent nearly 45 minutes listing all the rules I could potentially break. "At Sunshine Meadows, we have standards," she said with a tight smile. "Garbage bins must be brought in by 8 p.m. sharp, not 8:01. I personally conduct evening checks." I nodded politely while wondering who volunteers to stock trash cans at night. It didn't take long to find out. 2 weeks later, I received my first violation notice for having my garden hose improperly coiled. The second came while I was away on a business trip, because my lawn was allegedly half an inch too tall. The third was for installing a bird feeder that wasn't on the HOA's approved accessories list. Every notice came with a fine and a passive-aggressive note in Karen's looping handwriting. But I wasn't her main target. My next-door neighbor, Mr. Peterson, was a 78-year-old retired teacher who had lived there for over 15 years. He was kind, sharp-minded, and always offered to collect my mail when I traveled. He also happened to be diabetic and relied on daily insulin to stay alive. One evening in early June, I came home late from the pharmacy and noticed Mr. Peterson sitting on his porch, visibly distressed. As a healthcare professional, I immediately recognized something was wrong. "Mr. Peterson, are you okay?" I asked. He wiped sweat from his forehead. "Not really, Michael. My insulin delivery was marked as delivered today, but it's gone. I only have enough for tonight. If I don't get it, tomorrow could be dangerous." That set off alarms in my head. Missing insulin doses can be life-threatening. We searched his porch, checked nearby houses, and even confirmed the delivery time. The package had been dropped off at 2 p.m. and vanished by 3. That's when we heard Karen's voice. "Looking for something?" she asked smugly, twirling her car keys as she crossed the street. "Perhaps a package that violates HOA delivery regulations?" My stomach dropped. "Karen, do you know where Mr. Peterson's package is?" "Of course," she replied. "It's in the HOA office. All improperly delivered packages are confiscated under our new policy." New policy? She pulled up an email sent just 2 days earlier. According to it, packages could no longer be left at front doors. Residents were required to have deliveries sent to back doors or retrieve them from the HOA office during business hours. I took a breath. "Karen, that package contained prescription insulin. He needs it tonight." Her response was ice cold. "Rules are rules. He can pick it up tomorrow between 10 and 2. I need it in the morning, Mr. Peterson said, panic creeping into his voice. You should plan better, Karen replied flatly. This will teach you to read community emails. I couldn't believe it. This is medical necessity. You cannot withhold life-saving medication. I'm enforcing standards, she said, turning away. End the discussion. That night, I arranged an emergency insulin supply through my pharmacy and personally picked it up for Mr. Peterson. The whole drive, I couldn't stop thinking about how casually Karen had endangered someone's life. Not for safety, but for control. The next morning, we arrived at the HOA office right at 10 a.m. Karen barely looked up. You're early. The package, I said firmly. She sighed dramatically. Before that, Mr. Peterson needs to sign a violation notice and pay a $50 processing and storage fee. Mr. Peterson's face fell. That was it. You confiscated prescription medication, I said calmly, pulling out my phone. You were informed it was medically necessary. Charging him to retrieve it may constitute criminal negligence and potentially elder abuse. For the first time, Karen hesitated. Mr. Peterson spoke up. I've lived here 15 years. I just need my insulin. Karen disappeared into the back room and returned with the package. Take it. Final warning. I leaned closer. This isn't over. That afternoon, we filed a formal complaint with the county. I also consulted a lawyer friend who confirmed what Karen did violated multiple state laws. 3 days later, police knocked on Karen's door. I watched from my driveway as her smug expression melted into shock. Neighbors gathered. Phones came out. The officers escorted her to a patrol car as she protested loudly. You can't arrest me for enforcing HOA rules. One officer replied, Your job doesn't include withholding life-saving medication from an elderly resident. You're being charged with criminal negligence and elder endangerment. The HOA held an emergency meeting the next night, the largest turnout in its history. Karen was removed unanimously. Applause filled the room as neighbors shared years of horror stories about her abuse of power. A few days later, I watched Karen load a suitcase into a car, her lawyer beside her. She avoided eye contact. A for sale sign went up that same afternoon. In court, she was fined $25,000, sentenced to 1 year of probation, and ordered to complete mandatory community service at a senior center. For the first time, Karen faced real consequences, and Sunshine Meadows finally got its peace back.